Everybody, thanks for checking out statesman.com. It's Longhorn Confidential time. Danny Davis, Kirk, Bohls, Cedric Golden, all of the Austin American-Statesmen. Guys, get right into it. The regular season's wrapped up for this Texas football team this past Friday as we were getting over our Thanksgiving leftovers. 38-27 win over Baylor. Not much really to talk about this game. Obviously, Bijan Robinson, Roshan Johnson, both spectacular. Jalen Ford made his case for Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, but Texas, despite the win, is missing out on the Big 12 championship game. 8-4 overall, 6-3 in Big 12 play. They own the tiebreaker over Kansas State, but Kansas State beat Kansas the following day and is 7-2 in Big 12 play. So they move on to play TCU this week, and we'll talk about that matchup in a little bit. But let's look back at those conference losses for Texas. They lost 37-34 at Texas Tech. That game was decided in overtime. Kirk, you were there with me for that one. Said we got to go to Stillwater to see a 41-34 loss to Oklahoma State. And then we're all over at DKR for the 17-10 loss to TCU. So let's think about the three losses, all one-score losses. Which one do you think Texas is really kicking itself over as it's watching the Big 12 championship game at home? Said we'll start with you since you beat Kirk in fantasy football this weekend in our office league. We'll let you kick things off here.
I know. I want to say the Oklahoma State game because they seem to control that game and up 31-17. And Sarkeesian finally on Monday. I think, Daniel, you asked a great question, what are your regrets, basically, these three bad losses? And he said he regretted not running Bijan and Roshan more in those games against Oklahoma State and TCU. And finally, he learned something. The thing that's sad about it is if he makes that mistake again next year, he's not going to be able to say he didn't run Bijan enough because Bijan's going to be gone. And so there may be some tough times if he doesn't learn from these lessons, these mistakes that he made. And I know either one of those games is brutal. Either one of them is brutal. And I'll take the Oklahoma State game.
Well, I'd go with Texas Tech just because that was such a winnable game. Texas led 24-14 at the half. They were coming off a win over UTSA when they basically shut down the Roadrunners the second half and the 1-point loss to Alabama. Hudson Card played well, but Danny, if you recall, we were out there. Texas couldn't get Texas Tech off the field in the second half. I mean, I think Texas Tech ended up with 100 plays and Texas had 60. And, we went down the last few minutes of the game and, game looked over, Texas Tech in control. And then Hudson Card takes them on that unbelievable drive with, I don't know how many, 16 seconds.
Hudson Card? Who's that?
Hudson, yeah, he used to play here in Austin. But, he had a couple great passes. I think one to Whittington. I know one was Tariq Milton, maybe the only pass he caught all year. And then Bert Auburn kicked a 48-yard field goal to tie it. And then obviously Bijan fumbled first play in overtime. Game is lost. But, that's the one that, you're up. Texas Tech just okay, whereas Oklahoma State was riding high. TCU was riding high, still is. So you win that game, you win the tiebreaker at Kansas State. And I just think it'd be monumental for Sark if he just got to the Big 12 title game. They are third place in the Big 12, but just getting to the title game would have spoken volumes on improvement. So what do you have, Danny?
I go Tech too. TCU was a top 5 team when they lost to them. Obviously, their offense was awful in that game, but
terrible.
It was not real shame losing to a top 5 team. And Oklahoma State was a top 10 team on the road. And yeah, they did blow a huge lead in that game, but Texas Tech was not what Texas Tech is right now when they went to Lubbock. And that's one of those games where the defense, when they're very poor, they had very few poor performances this year. That was one of them. Tech was just not scared of them at all. Bijan touched the ball maybe 300 times this season, and he wants one of those touches back, and that was that overtime fumble, something we're just not used to seeing from him. So I think all in all, on defense and offense, that's probably the one that everyone can look at that game and say, I could have done something better. The defense looks at that TCU game, and Yeah, they have no regrets about that one. Yeah, probably, the offense put up 41 at Oklahoma State. So, they struggled a little bit in the second half and could have put them away. But I think that Texas Tech game is the one game where you look at both sides, coaching, defense, and offense, and you should have beat a team that you're better than. And unfortunately for the Longhorn fans, that one is probably the one that's going to come back to bite them. But as we said, 8-4 the season, they're going to a bowl game. 5-7 last year, 6-game losing streak at one point. So lots of improvement, lots of things to be excited about. But this is the University of Texas. You don't really get excited for trips to the Alamo Bowl, which we'll talk about in a second, or 8-win seasons. But considering the strides that were made, even at Texas, do you consider the second season under Stave Sarkisian to be a success? Kirk, we'll start with you.
Yeah, unequivocally, it's a success. Just winning 8 games in a season. I mean, it's only the 6th time they've done that in the last 13 years. So it's not a common occurrence. And they got a chance to win 9 now by going to a bowl game. And that would be only the 3rd time since 2009. So they got to get back to where winning is expected. And that's kind of the bare minimum standard, for Texas team. And, the other thing, guys, I mean, to me, most times they pass the eyeball test. I thought the defense was vastly improved. They were 100th in the nation last year. Now I think they're 51st, and they're only giving up 21 points a game. You do that, you should be in every game and win most games. So, yeah, I mean, I know Longhorn fans can quibble over, well, the 4 losses and, should have won Alabama, should have won Texas Tech maybe. But, yeah, it's more than a little bit of improvement. Now, whether he improves from here, who knows? But I do think Sark missed a little of opportunity here because Oklahoma's down, barely qualifies for a bowl. A&M is way down. And so you could have really made some big strides over your 2 main rivals. But overall, yeah, it's a success.
Definitely a success. I had him at 8-4, so it's about where I thought they'd finish. Um, One of those things that really should bother him though is he let some teams off the hook, and even for Sark, who's been doing this for a long time, it's a learning experience, and they're still got to learn how to close. Who knew the defense would be carrying the day, and that the offense would be the one that had the most question marks. He's going to have to answer the Quinn Ewers question. Arch Manning's coming in. We don't know if Arch Manning's going to be turnkey. We don't know if he's ready to play at this level. He's a private school kid in New Orleans. He's not playing in the big leagues down there. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what exactly happens this time next year. If Quinn's a better quarterback, if Quinn's actually starting, if Hudson Card's still on the team. So he's meeting with each player this week, and a couple of notables that one of those things where I would love to be a fly on the wall, Daniel, when he meets with number 8, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, but just really quick. Obviously, this season is a success. They lost to Kansas last year, and that was Kansas before Kansas became Kansas this year. So 4 losses by 18 points, 3 of those losses to top 10 teams. There's room for growth, both for the coaching staff and for these players. But at what we thought this season was last year, where is Steve Sarkisian the guy? Does he need to fire his entire defensive staff? Is anyone aside from number 5 on this roster good? I mean, they turned it around, and this program is obviously heading into a positive trajectory. And I think if you are a Texas fan who didn't have unrealistic expectations, you're probably pretty pleased with the direction your program. You can be frustrated, but you're probably pleased with, for the most part, the direction this program's heading. But as Cedric alluded to, Steve Sarkisian still met with the media on Monday. Talked for about half an hour with us. And so I guess what was one thing that stood out to both of you out of Steve's press conference on Monday? I said, we'll start with you since you talked about it. I mean, if you don't want to talk about X, I'll talk about him. So what's one thing that stood out to you out of that press conference?
I'll let you talk about X. I I really enjoyed the NIL discussion with him and how he wanted it to be really clear that we're not buying players. He's like, you want to come to Texas, we want people that want to come to Texas because it's Texas, and the NIL should be a bonus. You add that into that. Um, so if you're coming for the money, you're not going to be happy. So there's always a rich guy that says that, by the way. Yeah, money's not everything. Give me some of that. Give me some of
As
that
long as
every
you
day.
have it.
Give me some of that, so let me make my own decision on that money. That's $6 million a year. So, I was really impressed with what he had to say about that. I really think he wanted to separate himself from some of that, even though he did make sure and tell us that they're trying to right some wrongs, fix some discrepancies where they're like some D linemen aren't getting money, but the O linemen are. Maybe the D linemen need their version of the Pancake Factory. So it's kind of changed the game for him, and I wrote that in today's paper. That his schedule is different because he's got to tend to NIL and transfer portal issues in addition to this recruiting. So the game is a lot different than it was 10 or 15 years ago, guys.
Kirk.
Yeah, you wonder. I mean, it's kind of sad that these coaches have to do so much trying to get in their league championship games. Boom, it's over, and you got signing date in 3 weeks, and you got transfer portal starting Sunday, and have to juggle all that, at the same time. I'm in favor of an early signing date personally. I wish they would move it to August, and have that one signing date where some guys just want it to be over with, and obviously with NIL, it probably behooves these players to push it back to December. But, there would be some players that would sign, I think, in August and just want it over with and enjoy their senior season. So I think one thing when I asked Sark about, who impressed you the most, and he mentioned the kicking game, which I would wholeheartedly agree with because Bert Auburn has been really good. Will Stone's pretty good. He had a few out of bounds kicks, and Daniel Trejo was a good punter. And I don't think he got a punt block, did he? That I remember. So and he was and asked what needed improved, and he obviously mentioned the passing game, which we've kind of already talked about. That's what really let him down, and that's a big concern given he's an offensive guru. The passing game is where Sark has made his bones. So, and he didn't shy away from that. And then the third downs that, they need to execute better and convert more than that. I think they're like something like 42%. They're way down there in third down conversion. So I liked his candor, his honesty, even admitting finally that he should have given the ball more to Bijan. He only had 16 carries in that tech loss that we just talked about. So I appreciated his honesty and his bluntness.
As Cedric alluded to, I mean, Steve did address Xavier Worthy's situation. I mean, he didn't fully say Xavier Worthy will be a Texas Longhorn in 2023, but there has been some speculation, unfounded, on the internet that the transfer portal may be in Xavier's future. But Steve did kind of confirm that Xavier has been frustrated this season with his play, his role in this offense. His numbers are down significantly from last year, which is still kind of amazing because he leads the Big 12 in touchdown catches and has had a couple highlight plays. But as anyone who's watched a Texas game knows, I mean, there's been a lot of deep shots that just haven't hit. In that there's been a misconnection between him and Quinn throughout the season, and there's been some games where Xavier just hasn't been a factor, and he's supposed to be the X factor, quite literally. And so Steve did address Xavier's frustration. He did seem in some of his answers to indicate that Xavier's future is at Texas, but you never know, especially in the transfer portal era. I think Xavier is probably the only person that really knows, and we don't talk to him. He doesn't do much media. I think he's talked to us maybe twice, 2 or 3 times this season. So that'll be something to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. I know Texas and the fans and the coaches and the players are all interested in that because he is a exceptional talent, but obviously this season just did not live up to his expectations. He set the bar very high with his freshman year. So it was, I guess, good to see Steve kind of honest about those frustrations instead of just kind of brushing aside those that internet speculation and acting like everything was great and okay. So I mean, I
I
thought
agree.
that was good to see that honesty from
And
Steve.
Danny, next year's his so-called contract year, his last year in college probably. So you got to make the most of it. And, Sid and I were talking about that. I mean, to me, couldn't this guy be a first round draft pick? I mean, he's kind of a difference maker. He's not a physical receiver, and he doesn't fight for balls as much as he should. And I'm not sure how you grade his route running. So, this is a business, guys, and these are business decisions. So California kid, if you want to go to USC where play with Caleb Williams for a year, you could see stuff like that. Personally, I think the three of us hope he stays. He's fun to watch. Texas definitely needs him. So, I think too many fans get mad at these players when they're making, business decisions. So I don't know. Would you two blame him if he left?
I hope he does whatever is best for him. He's a grown man, and his decisions do not impact me in the least. So whatever he wants,
let him take care of his own happiness, his own family. If leaving is what he wants to do, then he can leave. There'll be another guy that wants to come to Texas. Me personally would love to see him and Isaiah Nayor get busy next year with some improved quarterbacking. We saw a couple of clips of Isaiah in the spring, and he looked like a game breaker, that deep threat. Of course, yeah. Was he catching any deep balls this year? Doubtful. He would have been open. So yeah, people were coming after me for saying Bijan's gone. I don't want to. He can make more money. He's a radio, TV, film major. He can make more money doing that if he gets his degree. I'm like, stop it. Just
no way.
Stop it with that. Miss me with that BS. He's going pro. He's going to be drafted in the first round, and in 5 years he'll be in the Pro Bowl. That's where we are with Bijan Robinson. That's where we are. The sooner you make peace with that, the better off you're going to be. Jonathan Brooks, Jadon Blue, Cedric Baxter coming in from Florida, Keelan Robinson may be coming back. Those are the guys that you need to get used to, because those are the guys that's going to be running the football next year.
If Bijan comes back, Steve needs to let whoever cut that check call the first play of the season, because that would be something.
If Bijan comes back, Daniel, money will be everything, because that's going to be a big check.
We'll drive. If Bijan comes back, we're taking him straight back to the airport. That he needs to go pro and move on with everything. We've loved covering him, but it is time. He's ready for the next step.
Absolutely.
Real quick, Texas isn't participating, but the Big 12 championship game is in Arlington this weekend. TCU 12-0, 9-0 in Big 12 play. Obviously, if they win, they are pretty much guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff unless something crazy happens. Kansas State 9-3, 7-2. TCU beat Kansas State earlier this season in a really weird game where Kansas State at one point was playing its third string quarterback. What happens this week? I said last week that I think Kansas State wins, and I'm not bouncing off that prediction at all. I feel very confident in that prediction. But said Kirk, is TCU going to reach the playoff, or is Kansas State going to spoil things?
I like them both. I'm gonna go with the Froggies. I know it's hard to beat a team twice. K-State was up 28-10 at the Carter, but I'm gonna go with the Froggies. I think Max Duggan is playing better than he did in that game. I think he's the best leader in the conference this year, besides Roshan Johnson. And I think they figure some things out on defense now. Deuce Vaughn's no joke, and K-State's probably got a better all-around attack, offensively and defensively. Not a huge fan of the TCU defense, but I think the Frogs figure it out, and I think we're going to see a Big 12 team in the playoff.
That TCU defense is pretty good here at DKR, wasn't it?
Well,
not so good against Baylor, which ran for 232 yards on them. So
that hurt Bijan when he heard that stat.
Oh, no, Deuce Vaughn may be licking his chops for another chance at those Froggies. But one thing that impressed me was last week when TCU. I was watching their game with Iowa State, and it was like I think it was 24-0 in the first quarter, and I was going, wow, they made a statement. They're playing loose, they're playing confident. The magic continues. Yeah, they've lived life on the edge. I don't know. This is almost probably equivalent of a home game for TCU, just right down the street at Jerry World almost. So they should have a whole lot of fans there. And I don't know. And I think K-State's defense can be pretty good too. But I don't know. I just think it's a magical journey for TCU. And personally, I kind of hope they keep it going. Just the Big 12 can get somebody besides Oklahoma in the CFP. And I don't know. You wonder if they would lose, if they would still have any chance at getting.
Don't stop it.
Well, they're talking about all these other USC's got a loss.
It's USC, blue blood.
I know, and that'd be a shame.
Blood is blue.
Yeah, but
no, they lose, they're out.
And that means Kansas State would go to the Sugar Bowl. Sorry, Danny.
And then TCU would go where?
TCU goes to Fiesta Bowl, maybe plays Michigan, maybe as the second and third place team, and USC number 4 versus Georgia. That would be entertaining. So I got TCU this weekend.
They're not going to take a 1-loss TCU of any of the over a 1-loss blue blood or even a 2-loss blue blood.
And the reason why they can't this year too is because TCU's non-conference schedule was horrendous. When you play Colorado and Tarleton State and SMU, even though the Mustangs are pretty good, it just doesn't impress anybody. Although Michigan didn't play anybody in non-conference either, but when you beat your arch rival on the road and trounce them, that's gonna give some muscle memory to those selection committees. So yeah, I think I think TCU's got to win.
USC also has to win in the Pac-12 championship game against our old friend Cam Rising in Utah. But we mentioned if TCU wins, be sure to check out their football team's Twitter account because they've been doing some insane celebratory videos that are something else. They're fun. So check that out. TCU wins. I'm sure they will go all out on social media. But Kirk, you mentioned some bowl games. Texas isn't going to the Sugar Bowl. They may be going to the Alamo Bowl, but you're our bowl guy. You're tapped into all that stuff. Where do you predict Texas? Texas is going to San Antonio, or are they going to Orlando, or are they going somewhere else?
I'm supposed to talk to one of the bowl execs this afternoon, but I don't know. I know you love San Antonio, and I know you've never been to the Alamo. So I just feel like this got Alamo Bowl written all over it, even though it'd be 3 times in 4 years. So, and that's contingent on TCU winning, because if TCU loses, they'll probably get screwed, and then they would be in the Sugar Bowl maybe, or I don't know. That'd be terrible though if TCU fell all the way to the Alamo Bowl after going 12-1. So
It'd be terrible for me.
Yeah, I know. I've got Texas playing probably Utah in the Alamo Bowl on December 28th. Although Cheez-It Bowl, still a possibility.
Kirk said, obviously you guys have both covered a lot of bowl games of the year. For my money, because I've only been 3 places on this beat, the best bowl was obviously Sugar Bowl, being in New Orleans for a week. Spend New Year's Eve in the Big Easy. That was a spectacular trip and a lot of fun, and hopefully I'll get to go back one day. But what is the best bowl game to cover? What's your favorite bowl game to cover? And do not say Alamo. Said you can go first.
You took my thunder, Daniel. No, I wasn't. I wasn't going to say Alamo. It was the Fiesta Bowl before John Junker went to prison. They had open bar, poker room, all the food. We had people shuttling us to restaurants. But for my money, the very best bowl game experience is the Cotton Bowl, bar none. They know what they're doing. They just know what they're doing. They take care of the media. The swag is always off the charts. They also have a great hospitality room, and family is allowed in the hospitality room. You can bring Chas and Chuck into the hospitality room. There's video games. There's candy. It is the most well-run, media-friendly bowl game on the planet.
It's not even close, as it said.
No,
I
it's
mean,
not.
you said they cater to the media. They roll out the red carpet and then some. I mean,
They
they
gave
got
us Mavericks tickets when the American
yeah,
Airlines opened up, Danny.
yeah.
We got Mavericks tickets, and they weren't cheap seats. They had a wing for the media in the new American Airlines Center, so we could watch the Mavericks. And it
And they
wasn't a
bring in
crap
they
game.
bring in comedians and have a New Year's Eve dance,
Oh yeah,
and
they have the New Year's Eve ball. Yeah.
it's amazing what they. It's not even close. But now, if you could get the Camelback in Dallas at the Cotton
Ah,
Bowl,
that's
then you would
Fiesta,
have
Daniel. That's
your
Fiesta.
perfect bowl. I remember the Holiday Bowl. We always had fun at the Holiday Bowl, and the Sun Bowl. Sun Bowl was great at catering to the media too. They're right behind the Cotton Bowl. They love you. I remember the first time I went to the Alamo Bowl, maybe '79, maybe, and check into my Marriott hotel right by the airport, and I'm putting my key in the room and about to go in. Still got my bags and everything, and I hear somebody behind me. Whoa, whoa, whoa! No, sir. And I look around. I go, what? He said, you get your ass in here first to the hospitality room. You got to have your first tequila shot.
That's the
Welcome to
Sun Bowl.
El
You
Paso.
said Alamo.
No,
This
I'm
is
sorry. I'm
it's
sorry.
the Sun Bowl. This
Sun
is El
Bowl.
Paso.
And they said, welcome to El Paso. And every time I've been since, they roll out the red carpet. It's kind of a mini Cotton Bowl in terms of media hospitality. So, but they're all great, Danny. All of them.
And
Yeah,
one day,
they are not
Daniel,
all. They are not all great. We're about to go to a
Yep.
JV bowl game in San Antonio in a couple weeks.
Ooh.
I'd like to hear you talk about how great that is. But everyone at home saying, "Who cares? Who cares what the media wants?" Y'all aren't excited about going to San Antonio either. So the only people excited about this bowl game are people who live in San Antonio who just don't want to use up mileage and don't want to burn gas going to watch this football team. So I don't want to hear anyone say what's wrong with the Alamo Bowl. San Antonio, it's a great city. I can go there today if I wanted to. I don't need to go there during bowl season to go to this box of a stadium where they might not even have rosters in the press box, and the media accommodations are garbage. The way they run their press conferences is not good. You have press conferences where they're not even letting press ask questions, as a couple years ago with the some teleconference nonsense. And our guy Rick Cantu was there for a high school game the other weekend, and there was a gap between his game and the next game they had to cover, and they kicked him out because UTSA was practicing and they didn't want to anyone spying on him. Apparently, thought Rick Cantu was spying forever. UTSA is playing next. That's a joke operation down there at the Alamo Dome, and I'm tired of that place. I'm tired of that stadium. I'm tired of that bowl game, and I guess I'll be there in a couple weeks. But
it's a great place, press box, to watch the game because you're so close. It's a great viewing bowl game. Now, Texas Bowl, they don't do anything for the media either, and I don't even know if they even have a single press conference. But at least it's great to watch from the press box at the
the
Alamo.
Holiday Bowl did very little for the media, but it's in San Diego.
Yeah, it is.
So we weren't complaining. We were just
Rose
glad
Bowl's fun. Rose Bowl's fun. Done about 5 of those, and they made us stay in the Beverly Hilton one year. So it's
1 year.
a dirty job. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
3
moving on.
years.
But yes, San Antonio, love your city. This isn't a rant against your city, but that bowl game and that stadium. Congratulations, Texas! You go play in UTSA's home stadium. Get excited. Before we get out of here, let's go over a couple things that are going on campus this week. The men's basketball team is playing Creighton on Thursday night at 6 p.m. Kirk, I believe you will be at that game. Women's basketball team will be playing South Florida Friday at 6 o'clock. Originally was at 7, but that's been moved up to 6. Southern I think Sed's going to that game. Southern Sunday at 2 p.m. And then the volleyball. That's what's going to be the big show on campus this week. NCAA tournament is getting underway, as Texas always does. They'll be hosting. Fairleigh Dickinson will be the first round game Thursday, 8 p.m. Texas is going to win that game. So second round game will be Friday at 8 p.m. against either Georgia or Towson. Texas is the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. So before we get out of here, on second thought, let's tease out a little bit what's going on this week. Do we have a plan yet, or are we still figuring stuff out?
I tried to get Joe Klatt, and nicest guy in the business. He responded like 2 minutes, said, "Man, I'd love to, but I'm just slammed this week." So we're still shaking the tree, see what falls out. If nothing else, Sed and I will wax poetically.
There will be a podcast. There will be.
A lot going on campus. A lot going on.
Yes, sir.
You can listen to that on Thursday as you head to the basketball game over at the Moody Center. And then once you finish that and you're walking over to Gregory Gym for the volleyball match, you can listen to the rest of the podcast. But that will all happen on Thursday. But that's going to do it for us. Going forward, we're not really sure how often we're going to be doing these videos since the football season is over, but we'll be back from time to time to talk about this football team, talk about what's going on campus. But we do appreciate you watching on YouTube, listening to wherever you get your podcast, checking us out on Facebook or statesman.com, and putting up with us throughout this entire season. But as always, thanks for hanging out with us, Danny, Kirk, Cedric. We'll see you all down the road.
Remember the Alamo, Daniel.
Yeah.